my 3 or 4 friends who are probably going to be watching this. Uh, I am going to be playing some Warframe, if that wasn't immediately obvious from the get-go, and I'm going to be doing a high-tier Railjack mission. And this is my Railjack, the AIS Fenrisulfur, and I'm going to be doing this mission using Neja, the Sobek, Zakti Prime, and the Paracesis. I will have to explain the Paracesis later, but while it isn't a standard weapon by any means, although I'm sure there are still a couple people who use it, it's useful enough in its niche purposes. So I'm going to be running R9 Cloud in Veil Proxima for a reason that is related to the Paracesis. And hopefully I can make this look cooler than it actually is, because my Railjack is pretty well kitted out. I will try to make a point of explaining some of the Railjack stuff, such as weapons, why I use them, etc. But I imagine you will still wind up, or at least some of you may still wind up confused. And that is perfectly fine, because Warframe is a game entirely about being confused. Or rather, Warframe is a game entirely about looking things up on a wiki, but... Also, I wasn't supposed to get that cool, like, loadout animation. One other thing that I feel I should point out is that, as you probably saw, I quickly switched my network mode in Warframe here to solo. I do not trust ragamuffins on my ship. They will probably waste my ammo and energy and stuff. And it's just generally much easier for me to do things solo anyway. So, Railjack guns, as you can see, have an overheat mechanic down bottom left. And the weapons that I use on my Railjack are both Carcinox, which, as you can see, are very awesome full auto-fire guns that deal a lot of toxin damage. And that Outrider you just saw there immediately blew up. That was because I ran up full force and basically fired a shotgun, but if every pellet was a missile. Because that is my munitions, the Melody, I think it was? And I pretty much exclusively use it for dealing with Outriders, because they are obscenely tanky and have weak spots that take a bit of concentrated fire to break. So instead I just up front shotgun blast them up the nose. And that is a combat avionic called Void Hole, which is probably one of the better ones, especially used in conjunction with Melody. I got it while it was fairly rare in the original renditions of Railjack. I think it's a little less rare now. But it is still, like, unequivocally powerful. Just groups enemies up in one place, all nice and neat. So, right now, Railjack pretty much exclusively consists of like one game mode, which is Skirmish, where you just have to kill a number of enemies, a number of cruise ships, and then complete side objectives in points of interest. Because as you can see there on the left, I have to kill fighters, destroy cruise ships, disable a missile platform, and investigate the Anomaly. The Anomaly, I will get to it later, but that is the reason why I brought the Paracesis, and also the reason why I chose R9 Cloud is because the Anomaly was here. You may have noticed the mission node for R9 Cloud blinking red is because of the Anomaly. And pretty much my favorite way of doing these missions, or rather the most reliable way to do these missions for me, is to simply kill all the fighters and cruise ships before doing any of these side objectives so that I can just park my Railjack out somewhere in the asteroid belt and not have to deal with anything hammering away at it. I'm also going to have to check if that over there is an Orokin derelict. There's nothing useful in it for me, even if it is, but it's worth it to show off, like, as many aspects of Railjack as I can in one go. And now, because I've met the kill requirement for enemy fighters, no more enemy fighters will be spawning in. Which also something that I forgot to explain earlier when I mentioned about the Void Hole is Railjacks, as of right now, use avionics as their mod system. It's a little odd in how it works, kind of, but still not really, because it functions on all the same basic principles as mods do. You have a set mod capacity, and you can slot specific avionics in based on your capacity in their slots. There are 3 kinds of avionics. You have ship avionics, which affect your Railjack. You have tactical avionics, which you can use to basically trigger specific benefits, like the one that I have is Void Cloak, which makes my Railjack invisible for a short while, which I find hilarious because that means enemies will no longer register your Railjack because it's invisible, and sometimes fighters will just slam into your Railjack and kill themselves. Eh? Oh, there you are. So what that was a ram sled, and cruise ships and various points of interest will launch them to harass you. If they collide with your ship, they will drop off a whole squad of Grineer soldiers to try and ruin your ship from the inside out. They'll just run around shooting the walls, causing general damage, and if they happen to spend enough time unmonitored on your ship, they may plant a bomb, which can cause, I think, an instant game over. I have never had a bomb planted that I didn't defuse. I probably just missed that shot. No. Okay, good. I missed it the first time, and that cruise ship was still around to bother me. He may have even been the one to launch the ram sled. Gonna go ahead and switch over to my Omni and patch the hull. Yeah. And you may have also noticed that way earlier in the fight, I wound up getting a small hull rupture and ignored it. My Railjack is built like a tank after, like, so much time doing Railjack early on. So I can fairly easily ignore most problems with my ship. Why the hell is this not... There we go. Okay, I'm gonna have to go ahead and Void Cloak. And deal with these last two cruise ships personally. This is technically the easier method of dealing with cruise ships, but it also takes longer. Ah, crap. Well, once I get back to my ship this time, I'm gonna have to deal with some intruders. Also interesting that I kept my warding halo between going out into space and boarding another ship. I don't think I'd be able to get away with that as Rhino. Or Baruch, or... frankly, any other Warframe with an ability kind of like this. I'll have to test it sometime, when I'm in the mood for playing more Railjack outside of just showing this off. Okay, so now I've dealt with all the cruise ships and all the fighters. Now I just have to deal with points of interest. Oh, come on.
Normalizing interior pressure. Ruptures sealed. Tenno disembarking.
Actually, you know what? Why the hell am I trying to go the whole distance on Arcwing? So as I mentioned earlier, ram sleds can be launched by points of interest that are controlled by the Grineer. That missile platform is one of them, and if I am not mistaken, the range at which it will launch ram sleds is somewhere in the margin of like 5,000 meters. Let me see. It doesn't seem like it, but I'm just gonna play it safe and be outside of 5,000.
Missile battery. It has to go. Standard
And now here you're actually going to be able to see the Sobek in action. I'm not sure how well the Zakti Prime is going to work here, but the Sobek is a dark horse, and I love it. Fully automatic, high status chance, especially when you consider the Steel Meridian augment. I do not have Rage on Neja. And I don't have Healing Return or Life Strike on my Paracesis. So, oh boy, this just got hilariously dicey. Small note of import. Healing Return makes it so that I deal... Or, no, that I heal from damaging enemies who are afflicted by status effects. The heal increases the more statuses are on a target. Life Strike heals me for the damage I deal with a heavy attack. And Rage is supposed to give me energy when I take health damage.
One down. One to go.
And because I have none of those, I kind of have to rely on whatever health orbs drop to survive here. Thankfully, Warding Halo will prevent some of that damage. Let's see how the Zakti Prime works. Absolutely glorious. Is there a gun turret in here? There's a console, but not a turret. Unfortunate. Although I think they patched out the bug that allows you to just shoot inside of the missile platform to destroy the radiators.
Radiators destroyed. Away crew. Go for the core. Key components marked. Destroy them. Away crew. Wrecking time. Destroy marked components.
Oh! Okay. So the Steel Meridian's augment mod heals me. That's cool. I needed that. Okay. Now to go and see if this is a Orokin derelict. Also, I know I stated earlier that, like, I was hoping to make this a little flashy, a little cool looking. But, I mean, you all can see what Railjack consists of. I don't really know if there's any way to actually make it flashy. It's like 30 minutes of
Structure.
dogfighting,
What drew the Grineer's interest?
and then another 30 of, like,
Infiltrate and
jumping
sterilize.
into
Leave
various
sentient operational.
locations and killing things.
Now deployed.
So, here's where the paracesis comes into play, because this is a sentient anomaly, which, I mean, at this point, we now know it as a Murex battleship. And the reason that I brought the paracesis is because most fully formed sentients, like that Tyro Battlist over there, when they take enough damage of a certain type, they gain a resistance to that damage type that stacks per damage resistance they have. Normally you have to subject it to void damage via operator mode in order to shed those resistances, but the paracesis is capable of shedding those resistances just by doing its own damage. It doesn't do innate void damage, it's just a special feature of the weapon. There are two other weapons that can shed sentient resistances that don't do void damage, those being the sentient, let's see, the sentient auto rifle, the Bazmu, and the arm cannon, which is the Shidu. Which, honestly, I probably could have brought the Shidu, but I don't really like using it. It feels weak to me. And also, melee is king. Because, I mean, look at that. I'm just breaking them apart. I don't even have 1x combo multiplier. These little sentient guys, the Brachialists, do not have those adaptive resistances, though. So they can pretty easily be disposed of with any gun.
No further sentients are incoming. Objective complete. Sentient threat eliminated. Grineer threat eliminated.
And that was a Railjack mission.
Stand down.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up a little bit by basically converting what resources I spent and then just taking whatever I don't need as raw material. And anything else, I will just refill back at the dry dock. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this showcase of a Railjack mission, one of the high tier for that matter, and have a great day.